Utah is one of those places that seems easy to picture, but hard to fully define. It is red rock canyons and snow-covered mountains, desert highways and fast-growing suburbs, ancient indigenous homelands and one of the most distinctive religious cultures in the United States. Located in the Mountain West, Utah sits at the meeting point of several American landscapes: the Great Basin, the Colorado Plateau, the Rocky Mountains, and the Four Corners region. It is landlocked, relatively dry, and filled with dramatic contrasts. Though its population is just over 3 million, Utah ranks among the largest states by area, meaning vast portions remain open, rural, mountainous, or desert. Yet the state is also growing quickly, reshaping its economy, politics, and environment in real time. Geography is the first key to understanding Utah. The state borders Idaho to the north, Wyoming to the northeast, Colorado to the east, Arizona to the south, Nevada to the west, and touches New Mexico at the Four Corners. But its population is not spread evenly across that space. Most Utahns live in the north-central Wasatch Front, a chain of cities and suburbs pressed between the Wasatch Mountains and the Great Salt Lake region. This corridor includes Salt Lake City, the state capital, and holds roughly 2/3 of the state's population. Farther southwest, Washington County and the St. George area form another major population center. Between and beyond these regions are deserts, plateaus, basins, canyons, forests, and some of the most iconic public lands in the country. Long before Utah became a state, it was home to indigenous peoples whose histories reach back thousands of years. Ancient Puebloan communities built complex societies in the region, adapting to dry landscapes through farming, trade, architecture, and deep knowledge of seasonal water sources. The Ute people, from whom Utah gets its name, lived across large areas of the interior West. Navajo communities also became deeply connected to the region, especially in the southeast. These groups did not simply pass through the land, they shaped it culturally, economically, and spiritually. Their histories are central to Utah's story, even though later narratives often focus heavily on European exploration and American settlement. Today, indigenous nations remain part of Utah's identity, land debates, and cultural memory. The first Europeans to reach the broader Utah region were Spanish explorers in the mid-1500s. But unlike coastal colonies or fertile river valleys, Utah did not become a major colonial center. Its geography made settlement difficult: deserts, mountains, limited water, harsh winters in some areas, and long distances from Spanish administrative hubs. As a result, Utah remained a peripheral region of New Spain, and later Mexico. Spanish influence did appear in exploration routes, trade networks, place names, and contact with indigenous peoples, but the area was not densely colonized by Spain or Mexico. This matters because when American settlers began moving into the region, they entered a place that was politically claimed by Mexico but not heavily controlled by Mexican institutions. The most transformative wave of non-indigenous settlement came with members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, often called Mormons. In the 1840s, they were fleeing marginalization and persecution in the eastern and midwestern United States. Led by Brigham Young after the death of Joseph Smith, Mormon pioneers traveled west along what became known as the Mormon Trail. In 1847, they arrived in the Salt Lake Valley. To them, the isolation of the region was not only a challenge but also an opportunity, a place where they could build a community shaped by their religious beliefs, agricultural organization, and communal planning. The phrase often associated with their arrival, "This is the place," became a founding symbol for Utah's modern settlement story. Utah's political status changed dramatically after the Mexican-American War. In 1848, the United States annexed the region from Mexico, and the area eventually became part of the Utah Territory. That territory was much larger than today's state. It included lands that would later become parts of Nevada and Colorado. But statehood was not immediate. Tensions grew between the federal government and the dominant Mormon community, especially over questions of authority, governance, and plural marriage or polygamy. For decades, Congress resisted admitting Utah as a state. The turning point came when the LDS Church officially moved away from polygamy, and Utah agreed to outlaw it. In 1896, Utah finally entered the Union as the 45th state. Religion remains one of the most important forces in Utah's cultural identity. Slightly over half of Utahns identify as Mormon, and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has its world headquarters in Salt Lake City. Utah is unusual because it is the only U.S. state where a majority of the population belongs to a single church. That has influenced everything from family life and community structure to politics, education, business culture, and social norms. The church helped create networks of settlement, welfare, genealogy, missionary work, and civic engagement that shaped Utah's public life. At the same time, Utah has become more religiously diverse and more secular since the 1990s, especially as new residents arrive from other states and countries. Utah's modern population pattern is shaped by both geography and lifestyle. The Wasatch Front has become a dense urban corridor, with cities such as Salt Lake City, Provo, Ogden, and their suburbs forming the core of the state's economy. This region offers access to jobs, universities, transportation routes, and outdoor recreation, all within a relatively narrow strip of developable land. Meanwhile, southwestern Utah, especially the St. George area, has attracted retirees, families, and businesses drawn by warm weather and dramatic scenery. St. George was one of the fastest-growing metropolitan areas in the United States in the early 2000s. Growth has brought opportunity, but also housing pressure, traffic, land use conflicts, and rising demand for water in already dry regions. Economically, Utah is far more diversified than many people assume. Mining has long been important, especially in a state rich in minerals and energy resources. Government services, education, transportation, and tourism also play major roles. But in recent decades, Utah has become known for technology, research, entrepreneurship, and information industries. The area between Salt Lake City and Provo is sometimes called the Silicon Slopes, reflecting the growth of software, finance technology, startups, and corporate offices. Tourism is another major sector, driven by national parks, ski resorts, public lands, and outdoor recreation. Utah's economy has also been associated with multi-level marketing companies, a controversial but notable part of its business landscape. The result is a state that blends extractive industries, outdoor branding, and modern tech growth. Utah's national image is closely tied to its landscapes. The state contains some of the most recognizable scenery in the American West: arches, slot canyons, mesas, salt flats, alpine peaks, and desert valleys. Places like Zion, Bryce Canyon, Arches, Canyonlands, and Capitol Reef attract visitors from around the world. In winter, the mountains near Salt Lake City support a major ski industry, helped by snow conditions that Utah famously promotes as unusually light and dry. These landscapes are not just beautiful, they are central to the state's economy and identity. They also raise complicated questions about conservation, public land access, indigenous sacred sites, energy development, and the impact of mass tourism on fragile desert environments. Utah's rapid growth is one of its defining modern stories. Since 2000, it has been among the fastest-growing states in the country, and the 2020 census confirmed that Utah had the fastest population growth rate in the nation since 2010. This growth comes from both natural increase and migration. Utah has historically had large family sizes, while its job market and quality of life reputation have attracted newcomers. The state also stands out economically for relatively high median income and low income inequality compared with other states. But growth changes communities. Housing affordability becomes harder. Rural areas feel development pressure. Longtime residents worry about losing local character. New arrivals may change political and cultural assumptions. Utah's future is being shaped not by stagnation, but by acceleration. The biggest challenge facing Utah may be water. Much of the state is naturally dry, and climate change is making droughts more frequent and more severe. This puts pressure on cities, farms, industries, and ecosystems. The Great Salt Lake has become a visible symbol of the problem, shrinking as water is diverted, consumed, and affected by warming conditions. A declining lake can damage wildlife habitat, harm recreation, threaten mineral industries, and expose lakebed dust that may affect air quality. Utah's growth makes the issue even more urgent. More people mean more demand in a region where water is already limited. Utah's story, then, is not just about deserts and mountains, faith and prosperity. It is about whether a fast-growing state can adapt to the limits of its landscape. If you found this helpful, please like this video and subscribe for more explainers.